Hey everyone, Stegar here and welcome back to Fairview. In today's episode we're going to be working on the city's main hospital, but that doesn't come until a bit later in the episode, like the 5 or 6 minute mark or something. And here I'm just starting to work on some road layouts for the area that we're going to work on in this episode as well as the next episode. A lot of the stuff actually gets changed, but I decided to show you it anyway because I feel like road layouts are kind of the basis of anything you build in your city, as like all the buildings have to sort of work around the road layouts that you lay out and stuff. And here I'm just placing down a Safeway as well as an LA Fitness to kind of create like a little shopping district, sort of like a mall, but not really, as it's only like 2 shops and things. And this area is going to have quite a lot of parking, as you can see me like building now using these parking lot roads by Bad Idea to create the parking lots. And just changing some of the roads and things so that they're all the same. And out the front here I'm placing down a whole lot of disabled parking spaces for the people that need it, and since it's quite close to the entrance to the Safeway I felt like that was quite a realistic place to put them so that disabled people don't have to go too far to get to and from their cars and to the store. And here just placing down all the parking spaces and making sure that they line up nicely with the edge of the roads, as well as also being flat, because sometimes I forget to make the roads flat and then it just turns into a big disaster and you get floating cars and stuff, which does not look that great, trust me, I know. And here just placing down some planters and using the prop line tool to space them out quite nicely, and then just going through with trees. And I think for this one I remembered the number of the spacing, so I just typed that into the box and spaced them out accordingly, and copying that into the other space so that it all works out nicely. I tried to keep enough space between the trees that people can easily walk through there with trolleys or whatever else, and also just lining this one up. This one I didn't remember the number, so I had to actually just drag it out until it fit in the right spot. But yeah, I managed to get quite a bit done in this episode, I think. I think we cover more area than we did in the last one. Also, I managed to record 3 episodes in the space of about 8 days, which I'm really happy about, but I mean, considering that I am in lockdown at the moment and have not much else to do with uni being on break for a bit, I've had plenty of time to be working on this stuff, and yeah, managed to record the last episode, this episode, and the next episode within the space of about 8 days since the Sunset Harbour DLC came out. I was originally going to continue working on my other series, Hunterville, but I got a bit uneasy about the DLC and the patch update that I decided to switch over to Fairview and build a bit of stuff in the city for a few episodes. I mean, I still have 2 episodes of Hunterville sitting on my computer pretty much ready to go, but yeah, I just wasn't sure at the time about whether I'd be able to record live plays, and also add a bit of other stuff that I need to go back in game and do. So I just decided to switch over here, and I'm pretty happy about what I've been doing so far with this episode and the last episode. And here I'm just placing down a few houses to kind of fill in the gap and not make this whole block just a big parking lot, but have some variety and stuff. And just placing down more fall trees and stuff. Here I'm using some of the shots from the University City Content Creator Pack to create just a little street with a whole lot of shops on it. I find that these are pretty versatile buildings and work in a lot of different situations where you just want to build some low density shops and things, and just tweaking with the parking lot road a bit to get it to line up behind the buildings with all the trash cans or dumpsters and stuff, and just filling in here with some trees and things to kind of flesh it out a bit. Here I'm creating a back lot to the Safeway where trucks and things could drive in and drop off their various deliveries that would be coming to the shop daily. and using procedural objects to kind of manipulate this industrial building diaphragm so that it doesn't really clip over the back of the building, but is still there and could act as one of the main warehouse areas for the Safeway and where all the goods get stored when they're not on the shelves in the supermarket. And I also placed down a Esso gas station. I'm not really sure where Esso is from as like a brand, but I'm just using it here as it's one of the assets that I have, and I feel like we needed more gas stations in the city as we only have like maybe like 4 or something. And yeah, just try and spread them out across the city so that when people are driving through they have space to go. Here we're actually placing down the hospital building, which is the General Hospital from the Modern Japan Content Creator Pack by Ryuichi Kaminogi that just came out recently, and I bought it and have been looking for ways to use the buildings in it. My cities aren't really Japanese inspired, but I feel like this building could fit into the city, and I do some colour changes and stuff later that make it look a bit different and use like a kind of brownish red colour to try and imitate the colour of bricks a bit. And here it's just placing in some parking lots out the front of the building. I ended up changing quite a bit of this stuff later on. Here you see me placing down this like prefab wall from the construction props pack by Beard Monkey and trying out the text option in procedural objects for the first time ever. And this took me a little bit of time to understand how the like texture mapping lines up for this particular asset with the like words and stuff, and you'll see me like tweaking around with things and writing Fairview Hospital on the sign so that it just is very clear to people driving past what this building is. And I also copy this procedural object onto the roof of the building to replace the Japanese text that was originally on the building that I moved with procedural objects to kind of hide it, as this isn't a Japanese themed city in any way, and there would be no reason to have Japanese writing. And I was quite thankful that it was easy to remove the Japanese writing off this building, as I was worried that it would be part of the texture itself, which would make it a lot harder, but it isn't. And here I'm just moving the hospital back a bit. There's like one little sign or something that I didn't realize was still there that's sitting in the middle of the road and gets changed like sometime in the next episode when I actually realize it. So if you do notice that in the cinematics, I guess that's just one minor thing that I missed. But here I'm changing the parking lot to kind of its final layout and just placing down some of the parking spaces here. And yeah, I also put a whole lot of disabled parking spaces at like the main entrance to the hospital, like right in front of the doorway, so that again people that are disabled, they have an easy way to get into the building compared with some of the other parking spaces which are a bit further away. And yeah, just placing them down, and I put some little line decals on the sides to kind of finish off the edges where the diagonal markings are. And here I'm placing down the vanilla clinic so it actually functions and makes the whole hospital function, since procedural objects kind of remove the functionality. I needed this here for the hospital to actually work. I also placed like a few little death care buildings inside of the back of the hospital by one of the back entrances, and you can see hearses coming out of the back area, and it just kind of hides that whole death care mechanic and still has it functioning. And here I was just placing on some of the curb props and more trees to kind of just lighten up the space a bit and make it look a bit more lush. Here I'm making another sign with the text option again. My main inspiration for actually trying out this text option is the military base episode by Presbury actually decides to use procedural objects for once and does some text customization on some road signs and stuff. I don't know if that was like an April Fool's joke or not, but anyway, it happened and it inspired me to actually try out that option in procedural objects, which is a mod that I've been using for a long time by now, and that's just one feature I'd never touched before. Here we're placing down a few houses. This is kind of nothing compared to the next episode where we'll basically just be working on houses. I'll probably end up releasing a Hunterville episode in between this one and the next episode from Fairview, as I just kind of want to release that, as it's been sitting on my computer for a while, since like before the update, as I alluded to earlier in the time lapse. But yeah, here I'm just placing down some trees and stuff, and I pretty much do the same in this block too. And yeah, just placing out a construction site as well to add a little variety, and I feel like they're just a great addition to your city in general and can make things look a bit more alive. And those ones, I think they're part of the American eclectic theme and are just kind of an intermediary building that can be used to kind of just make it look like there's actually stuff going on. Anyway, here we're placing down more trees, and then I go around some of the streets and place a whole lot of fallen leaf decals kind of beside the fences where you'd actually be able to see that stuff from road level. And I'm not too worried about the prop count, as I mean I've used like 8,000 props in the city so far and we don't have much left, so that's not really something that concerns me, as I don't think we will reach it unless I use like a few thousand props an episode for the remainder of the series. Anyway, now we're going to head into a live play and I'll give you a decent look around what we've built in today's episode. Okay, so now we're in game and at the back of the hospital where I've placed down a few death care buildings. If I get the timing right, which chances are I won't because a hearse just left out of here before, but the hearses come out between this gap and, or as you can see now, they just kind of clip through that street light but don't clip through the building. But yeah, they're there and they serve their purpose in terms of dealing with any death care and reducing the effects of any death waves we might have in the city. Here's the vanilla clinic, which actually functions and is just supposed to be the emergency department, even though it says clinic on here, but I can't really change that easily because if I convert the building into procedural objects we lose the functionality, and that's kind of the whole reason why it's there, is so it does function. But you just got a few fall trees around the place, and on the other side of that is this massive parking lot that leads towards the Safeway and LA Fitness. Got some disabled parking spaces down here that in turn just act as regular parking spaces, but they have disabled symbols on them. And over the back there's a few trucks and things for deliveries of food and stuff to the supermarket. And a gas station, I mean, it's just there because we needed more and it fit into the space well, I guess. And there's few shops on what is essentially the edge of the downtown as we're kind of transitioning back out into suburbs further along here and all that. This empty area that you see along the side of the river here and basically in between what we built today and the rail line will be filled up in the next episode with a whole lot of suburbs. That will be in 2 weeks time though, and next week I plan to release a video of me building out some rural road layouts in my other series of Hunterville. So look forward to that next week. If you've liked this video, leave a like if you haven't already, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos, and follow along with this series as well as my Hunterville series, which I also recommend that you check out if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.